So at this point, you've probably seen a few videos of what I've been doing on the One of None channel. Made quite a bit of progress on the Scout. Decided to pick up where I left off on the original video. And share my screen here. So at this point in the project, I had sectioned the Scout in half, and I was removing the windshield pillar and basically the front sheet metal. One thing I did do, and you can't see it here in the video, there's some blue tape up here because God forbid I'd scratch the paint. I actually used an angle gauge on this, and I wanted to get a better idea of what angle the windshield was at as it related to the stance of the vehicle on the ground. Now granted, it's got flat tires and everything else, but I needed a starting point so when I reassembled the vehicle, I knew kind of a rough idea of what angle the windshield pillar and the front sheet metal was at. Because keep in mind, I'm gonna weld it on and work my way forward and then back. And that angle gauge was on the car through a lot of this build. As you can see, this is me tearing the whole front clip off. We got the front clip off. The actual engine still runs. This is a two-wheel drive International Scout. In fact, it's up for sale on Facebook. Not that there's a huge market for this contraption. So this is the Corvette, and I ran into some dimension issues. The actual uniframe kind of fit, but I ended up having to cut out these door jambs and I had to remove the fiberglass and then remove a big section of the metal and then re-weld it in order to get that windshield pillar to fit over the top. I had to be able to get this area to fit over the top of that. And you'll see some videos of that. Here it is cut out. And I end up fashioning some steel over the top of it. Some pictures of the vehicle as I was kind of dry fitting it on there. Testing the sheet metal to make sure the sheet metal fit correctly. The wheelbase of the Scout is 4 inches longer than the Corvette. I had this crazy idea that I'd be able to kind of split the difference, and it did. As we go through the videos, you'll see I was able to do split the difference. As I said in some of the earlier videos, the body was in pretty rough shape. So you can see just kind of mocking up where the dashboard was going to fit and trying to make things fit. It's just crazy to imagine how everything fit together. And I did the bulk of this myself. You can get a good idea of how rough the body was. I pulled that the rear pan off, and I actually initially planned on using the floor and everything. And as I started to remove it, I realized there just wasn't much that wasn't rotted. So I continued to cut out the floor. And then this is probably the coolest view. Deep down, I wished I could have left this all open so you could see the independent rear suspension because it's kind of cool looking. I had done structural supports across the back just so that it kind of held it in place. That's not the stance I ended up with. It's got more of a rake than that, but that was kind of the goal of what I was going for. You can see how much lower those rocker panels sit. And I started to mock it up and get everything to fit into place. I'm going to zip forward a little bit here. So at this point, I've got some steel welded in. I'm working on the front clip. This aluminum piece is what mounts that front steering wheel and gets basically just dimensionally gets things lined up. Yes, the windshield is that much higher than the steering column. It's the weirdest part about the car. There's two really weird dynamics to this. One, the windshield sits up really high. And two, the seats sit really low. Even with risers in there, the seats sit really, really low. But you can kind of see there's the original firewall from the Corvette, and I'm just kind of welding pieces in. I'm just blocking stuff up. I had to do a custom dash. And at this point, I've got some wood back there to try to line up the rear end. It was getting the front fixed wasn't an issue. Getting the back to line up and getting the door jambs to close back up again was an enormous amount of work. And I did it myself, so I didn't have any helpers there kind of helping me along. Welded in a battery box, just some additional steel, structural steel. This ends up getting covered up later on in the build, but just needed to be able to tie in that firewall. Inside view of where the dashboard sits. At this point, the back is now finally fastened on and welded on. I still got to do rocker work. This is cool. I'm proud of this. This is the outside rocker panel, and then I built these custom sills to go over the top of the existing Corvette sills that were in there. And you can see there is the Corvette sill. There is the actual sill from the Scout. So I mean, huge difference in width, but it worked. And then you'll see in some subsequent videos how that looked. Welded on the back tailgate. There was no way for me to be able to get this to operate, and I needed to be able to have these sides tied together because there was just no structural integrity left. And then welded in a roll pan. I only have a 36-inch sheet metal bender or brake, so this is where the license plate's going to go anyways. I pulled the license plate bracket off from underneath the rear tail lights. So that is a little bit of what the interior looked like. And I think I'll stop the video here, and we'll do another subsequent video as some of the other ones that were shot live in the shop move along.